Hello, guys. This is Avcoor, and I want to talk about the newest content that is about to come our way and the realities of this game and why you shouldn't listen to what everybody has to say. So, let's go into notices. Of course, we're going to talk about the new dungeon ranking, La Pena Coast. And people made some very misleading commentary and direction. So, when you get into La Pena Coast, this is content that makes us somewhat compete against each other. It's not PvP in the fact that you have to battle an opponent from across the way, but you still are competing in a pool of people. And how you compete and how well you perform will be based on a couple of things. So, how to play. Take on a dungeon and aim for a high score. From event on the home screen, challenge the event exclusive dungeon and aim to earn a high score. You'll be ranked within a randomly selected group of about 10,000 people, according to the score you have obtained. So I actually did the first one, and I actually didn't do well. I got top what 400. I got top 400, but I felt I could have done a lot better, and there's a couple of reasons why that is. So this is where we get into the meat and potatoes. It seems like two lines, but these two lines are extremely important. So, the recommended element. Wind is particularly effective. Lightning may also be effective against some enemies. So, if you remember for the last challenge event that we had ice as the main DPS element, but we had fire as a secondary DPS element. I felt that my score was limited in the fact that I did not have Shiva maxed out. That really hurt my score. In fact, I could have beaten Reno easier if I didn't have that limitation. If I had Shiva not just with whiteout, but I'm talking about Shiva with diamond dust. Shiva with diamond dust would have made that battle a whole lot easier. And I learned my lesson from that battle. So when you look at when is particularly effective, let's go back to the Matt and Eric banner where people were telling us that that was a skip. That was not a skip. And I argued this in a video, I argued this on Facebook that that was not a skip. And a lot of people who said that it was a skip were the same people who actually rolled on that banner and got Aerith. And so now we get to the Halloween event, and we're beginning to realize that Aerith was a necessary evil. It was a necessary evil to summon Aerith and get her costume and her weapon. I actually have some plays showing that Aerith performed extremely well. Her weapon, I'll show later on, is at a certain level, and her costume is at a certain level, and it got the job done for me. So, what am I getting at? I have three helpful tips, just three, that's going to let you clear this with relative ease. May not be like top 100 because top 100 is well territory, but it should net you in the 500 bin. First of all, let's get out of here and let's go to our growth and let's look at our summons. One of the things I want to stress to everybody, summon and summon grinding is super important. As you can see, I learned my lesson and Shiva's maxed out, right? 96 nodes unlocked, diamond dust unlocked. But I further learned my lesson, and Ramu is maxed out. And this is super important because when we get into the dungeon, you're going to want Ramu maxed out with Judgment Bolt to allow you to do the AoE damage in order to wipe out mobs. Summons actually help you balance out your party because they allow you to add an element in an attack that you would normally would not have a slot for. So I wouldn't have a slot for this. So when you're breaking down your teams and you're constructing your teams in order to clear the dungeon, you're gonna say, "Wow, man, I don't." I don't have enough space for another lightning attack. And excuse me, what if you didn't invest in cloud? Well, if you have Ramu, you have a way to deal a massive amount of damage. In fact, I think and I know from the last battle that we were in the last dungeon, that when we get to that ultra hard boss, we're gonna need Ramu to deal some massive levels of damage. We're also probably gonna need Shiva. Like, we're gonna need our summons in order to clear that content. If you want to hit the 500 bin easy, you're gonna need your summons. So this is the first tip. You really need to max out your summons. And I don't think content creators talk about this enough, but I will. Summons are the way to go, and we'll talk about that in another video, but that's tip number 1. Tip number 2. So let's go to my party. Let's go to co-op. And let's look at my arrows for a second. This is the arrow that I took into the Dark Army leader. And I'm going to tell you, like, she is a little inadequate as far as DPS goes. I built her for DPS. I was able to raise her magic attack into the 1,900 bin, but it hasn't reached the 2,000 bin. But it's been enough for me to clear a lot of content in the Dark Army battles. In fact, she was the hardest battle that I was in against the Dark Army leader. She was literally at this capacity. Her heal was 1,170, which is low. Her magic attack is 1,963, which is average. Her HP is low. And physical attack doesn't matter. Physical attack is important because it allows her to take physical hits. But overall, it was like average, kind of meh, really. This is what put her over the top. Wind Strike Arcanum. Wind ability damage plus 35%. That put her over the top. That allowed her DPS, which is mediocre, to be above average. And that's what I needed. And that's what you will need. The second tip is you're probably going to have to summon for Sephiroth, or if you have Aerith, you're good to go. But for me, I think it's necessary for us to summon Sephiroth. And it hurts me to say that because in my heart, I actually want to summon for Cloud because I am a big fan of the costume. But for priority's sake, it has to be Sephiroth's costume. It has to be. Because you're getting too much out of it. So, why do I say that? First of all, let's go to the draw and we'll look at Sephiroth's costume. Just a brief little look-see at Sephiroth's costume. So, let's look at Dark Harbinger for a second. So, we get boost HP, which is really good for Sephiroth because he has low HP, and Wind Mastery, which is wind ability damage plus 20%. And you're saying, well, it's not really as good as Wind Strike Arcanum. But if you don't have any wind DPS, then it's a godsend. I mean, what other wind attacks do you have outside of Aerith, outside of Sephiroth that we currently have available to us? All you have is arrow materia. And some people have not really built arrow materia that well. I have, but not everybody has the resources in order to constantly spawn materia in order to get the good materia that you need. And overall, on some level, it's inferior to a weapon attack and gear. Like, if you were to get Sephiroth's gear and not get his weapon, which didn't happen, you still could use arrow materia, physical arrow materia with good effect. So that is one of the biggest points I'll make in this video, that when you see these equipments, when you see these suit sets, they're kind of a must get. Like when people said that Aerith's costume wasn't worth it, I was like, no way, man. And I was proven to be right. And I'll be right about Sephiroth's gear too. It is a must get. If you really want to progress fast in this game, it is a must get. And I won't even lie to you. So the third tip is actually still here. I want to show you Bandit sword. I'm not talking about the costume per se, but let's talk about bandit sword skill. Is magic defense increased, potency mid, range all allies. I want to stress this, and we're gonna go to Aerith and the party. Buffs are important, and buffs will help you get through this game. And more importantly, in dungeons, they will offset the attack of an opponent. So once we get into this dungeon, once we see what we're facing, if you were smart, if you had the resources, you should have built your chocobo staff to at least 50 or 60. I built mine to 80 max star. The last tip that I want to give for this video is invest in buffs. Have someone do buffs because that is going to be the meta sooner than later. There's two stages to the meta. It's elements, then it's buff, and then the more consistent element is HP. So first you want to designate a character to do the DPSing, and then you want to supplement that DPS with summons. And then on top of that, you want to have high HP, but you want to have a way to buff your allies so they can survive hits. Excuse me. And that's going to carry you pretty far in this game as a whole. So, anyways, if you like my content, hit the like, share, subscribe button. I'll always give you the good tips, the right direction. And I'm not going to lie to you because deep down inside, I do want the cloud costume. But if I don't get it, then it is what it is. All right, guys. Have a safe day. Laters.